Hi, lovelies. With a busy toddler at home and another one on the way very shortly, you can imagine I have been keeping things in the kitchen as simple as possible these days. And that's why I'm really excited to share with you this quick, easy, and nutritious dinner idea that my whole family is loving right now. It's a Mexican-inspired chicken and rice skillet, and it comes together in no time, is packed with good-for-you ingredients, and happens to taste absolutely amazing. Now, you guys already know that one-dish dinners are totally my jam, and this one is no exception. That's why it has become a regular in the rotation at my house. To get started, I have got a skillet heating up on the stove, and to that I'm just going to add a little bit of oil. I'm just using a canola oil here, but any sort of flavorless oil is perfect in this recipe. Once that oil is nice and hot, we can go ahead and add our chicken to the pan. Now, I'm using chicken in this recipe because that's Elle's favorite these days, but I have to tell you, you could swap it with your family's favorite protein like ground pork, ground beef, ground turkey, or even veggie crumbles would work really well in this recipe. It's totally up to you. I'll season that up with a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper, and then I'm going to let this cook away, breaking it up with the side of my spoon for 5 or 6 minutes or until it's no longer pink. Just as soon as your chicken is fully cooked through, you can get to work on building some flavor into this dish. And the first step to do that is going to be adding some green bell pepper. I'm also going to be adding some onion to this, and I'm just going to let those cook away until they start to soften up. While that's cooking away, we probably have time for a little bit of a bump update in case you guys are wondering. I am now 7.5 months along, so I'm getting very, very close to the finish line with this little one. They're expected to arrive on March 7th, but I have a feeling that they'll be coming a little sooner than expected. And needless to say, I am super excited because at this point, I feel like I couldn't possibly get any more pregnant, and yet apparently that's what's happening. So here we are. Just as soon as you start to see all of that yumminess soften up, you can go ahead and add even more flavor to this with some minced garlic. And I'm going to be adding a bit of a kick to this with some minced jalapeno. Now, the jalapeno in this recipe is completely optional. If you don't like the heat, you could totally leave it out. Or if you wanted more of a smoky flavor here, you could also swap the jalapeno for a chipotle instead. That would be super yummy. Just as soon as that garlic and that jalapeno become nice and fragrant, after about 30 seconds or so, you know it's time to add the rest of your ingredients to the pan. I wanted to load this dish up with extra fiber and protein, so I'm using some black beans to do that. These are canned black beans that I've just rinsed and drained. I'm also going to be adding some corn kernels to this. I'm using frozen corn kernels because of course they're super convenient and I always have some on hand. Next, I'm going to add my rice to my skillet. You can see I may have used a skillet that is slightly small for this project. You might want to use one that's just a little bit larger so that you have a little more space for stirring. The final step here is just adding my broth. Now, I had vegetable broth on hand, so that's what I'm using here today, but chicken broth would obviously be a totally perfect substitute as well. And we're just going to give that a quick stir. And as soon as it comes to a boil, you can reduce your heat to low, pop a lid on your pan, and let it simmer away for between 15 and 20 minutes, just until that rice is super tender. Now, you want to keep a good eye on it and maybe stir it at least once or twice through the cooking process to make sure your rice doesn't stick to the bottom of your skillet. So while that deliciousness is cooking away, we're gonna turn our attention to making a really amazing sauce for this skillet. Now, this sauce is what takes this skillet right over the top, and it's totally worth making. Now, I'm gonna be doing this in my handy dandy little food chopper. You could do this in a food processor or a blender if you have one. Now, for this sauce, I am starting with some sour cream. You could also use plain Greek yogurt if you wanted to in this recipe. Totally interchangeable, so use what you have on hand. To that, I want to add lots of yummy flavor. So I've got one green onion headed in here, as well as some fresh cilantro. If you're not a cilantro fan, you could swap in some parsley here instead. It's totally up to you. I've got a nice big squeeze of fresh lime headed in here, and 1 clove of garlic. I'm going to season this up liberally with a little bit of salt, pop a lid on my little food chopper, and let it blend away. You just want to make sure that garlic has a good chance to sort of break down and get fully incorporated. And oh my gosh, guys, you will not believe how fresh tasting this amazing sauce is and what a perfect complement it is to this amazing chicken and rice skillet. And now for the moment of truth. Oh, that looks so good. The rice is nice and light and fluffy. Everything looks amazing. We are going to top this off with that incredible creamy sauce, some avocado, a sprinkle of red onion, some fresh cilantro, and dinner is served. Seriously, guys, what's not to love? Guys, I really think this dish is such a showstopper, and the best part is it tastes just as good as it looks. I hope you'll give it a try for yourselves, and if you do, don't forget to tweet me, Instagram me, or Facebook me a photo, because you know how much I love seeing your kitchen creations. This recipe, like all of our recipes, is featured on healthymealplans.com, our amazing meal planning site that allows you to browse more than 1,000 recipes, drag and drop them into your weekly meal plan, and then automatically generates your grocery list for the week. If you haven't signed up yet, I hope you will. It's absolutely free to use, and it will make your life in the kitchen so much easier. Finally, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe because there is lots more deliciousness where this came from.